At Christmas dinner, my daughter handed me a small white pill and said, "Mom, take your new vitamin. The doctor prescribed it specially for you." I looked at the pill. Then I looked at her. I'm a pharmacist. I spent 42 years behind a counter reading prescriptions and catching doctors' mistakes. That wasn't a vitamin. That was lorazepam, 2 milligrams, a sedative. I smiled and said, "Oh, how thoughtful." I pretended to swallow it with my wine. Instead, I tucked it under my tongue, excused myself to the bathroom, and spit it into a tissue. My hands were steady as I folded the tissue carefully and slipped it into my cardigan pocket. When I came back to the table, my daughter Rachel was watching me a little too closely. Her husband Tom was cutting his ham with exaggerated focus. Neither of them asked if I was feeling okay. They just waited. I didn't feel anything, of course, because I hadn't swallowed it. But I acted drowsy. I let my fork slip once. I blinked slowly and said, "I think I'm more tired than I thought." Rachel jumped up immediately. "Mom, why don't you lie down in the guest room? You've been pushing yourself too hard." Tom nodded, already standing. "We'll clean up. You rest." They were too eager, too helpful, too prepared. I let them guide me upstairs, let them tuck a blanket around me, let them close the door softly like I was a child. Then I lay there in the dark, listening. At first, I heard dishes clattering, water running, normal after-dinner sounds. Then their voices dropped. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was urgent, focused. After 20 minutes, I heard the guest room door creak open. Rachel's voice, barely a whisper. "Is she asleep?" Tom's reply, "Give it another hour. The dosage should keep her out till morning." My heart didn't race. It ticked cold and steady, the way it had when I caught a prescription error that could have killed someone. I waited until their footsteps retreated downstairs. Then I got up, opened my purse, and pulled out my phone. I took a photo of the pill I'd saved. I texted it to my nephew Daniel, the only family member I still trusted. "Does this look like a vitamin to you?" He replied within 2 minutes. "That's lorazepam." "Aunt Evelyn, what's going on?" I typed back slowly, carefully. "Come to the house tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Don't tell anyone." I didn't sleep that night. Not from fear, but from focus. I sat in that guest room with the lights off, replaying the last 6 months in my mind like rewinding security footage. The pieces had always been there. I just hadn't wanted to see them. It started last June when Rachel suggested I add her name to my bank account. "Just for emergencies, Mom. In case something happens and we need to access funds quickly." I'd hesitated, but she'd been so persistent, so loving. She'd held my hand and said, "Dad would have wanted someone to look after you." My husband Richard had been gone 3 years. The mention of him always weakened me. In August, she convinced me to sign a power of attorney. "It's just a precaution. You're healthy now, but if you ever get sick, this will make everything easier." I'd skimmed the document, trusted her, signed it. She'd had it notarized at her bank the same day. In October, she started talking about my house, how big it was, how hard to maintain, how I should consider something smaller, maybe a nice assisted living community where I wouldn't have to worry about stairs or yard work. I'd laughed it off then. Now, lying in the dark, I understood. This wasn't about worry. This was about assets. When morning came, I stayed in bed until I heard Rachel's car pull out of the driveway. Tom had left earlier for his office, he'd said, though it was the day after Christmas. Through the window, I watched their SUV disappear down the street. Only then did I get up, splash water on my face, and go downstairs. The house was quiet. I made coffee, strong and black, and sat at the kitchen table. At exactly 9 o'clock, Daniel knocked on the back door. He was 34, a software engineer, Rachel's cousin from Richard's side of the family. They'd never been close. Daniel had always been the odd one out at family gatherings, too quiet, too thoughtful, not interested in the social climbing that Rachel and Tom thrived on. He came in without his usual smile. "Aunt Evelyn, what happened?" I handed him the tissue with the pill. They tried to drug me last night. Rachel said it was a vitamin. His jaw tightened. Why? I think they want to declare me incompetent, move me into a facility, take over everything. I pulled out my phone and showed him the text chain. I need your help. I need to know what I've signed, what they have access to, and I need to stop it before they realize I'm awake. Daniel sat down slowly. Do you have copies of the documents? I nodded and led him to my study. I kept everything filed, organized by year, in labeled folders. It was a habit from my pharmacy days. Richard used to tease me about it, but now I was grateful. I pulled out the folder marked 2024 and handed it to Daniel. He read through the power of attorney first. His expression darkened. Aunt Evelyn, this isn't just medical. It's a general, durable power of attorney. Rachel has full control over your finances, property, and healthcare decisions if you're deemed incapacitated. Can she access my accounts now? He flipped to another page. Technically, yes. The language here says it's effective immediately, not just upon incapacity. That's unusual. He looked up. Have you checked your accounts recently? I hadn't. Not closely. I logged into my banking app once a week, glanced at the balance, paid my bills. That was it. Now, sitting next to Daniel, I opened the app and went through the transactions for the last 6 months. At first, everything looked normal. Then I saw them. Small transfers, 2,000 here, 1,500 there, always on different days, never the same amount. They added up to over $30,000, all going to an account labeled R. Morrison Trust. That's Rachel's married name, I said quietly. Daniel leaned closer. When did these start? August. Right after I signed the power of attorney. He pulled out his laptop. I'm going to check something. What's your property address? I told him. He typed, clicked, frowned. There's a reverse mortgage application in process on this house. Filed November 15th. Signed by you. I never signed that. Then someone forged your signature. He turned the screen toward me. There it was. My name, my address, my supposed signature at the bottom. It didn't even look like my handwriting. Too shaky, too uncertain. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not panic. Clarity. What do I do? Daniel didn't hesitate. First, we revoke that power of attorney. Today. Then we freeze your accounts, report the fraud to the bank, and file a police report. But Aunt Evelyn, you need to understand what this means. You're accusing your daughter of elder financial abuse. Once we start this, there's no going back. I looked at him. This boy, this good, steady boy who'd never asked me for anything, who'd always just shown up when I needed him. I know, I said, and I'm ready. We spent the rest of the morning making calls. First, my attorney, a woman named Patricia Chen who'd helped me update my will after Richard died. She was in her office even the day after Christmas. When I explained the situation, her voice went cold and professional. Come in at 2. Bring everything you have. We'll handle this. Next, the bank. I spoke to the manager, a man named Mr. Kowalski, who remembered me from when I'd set up Richard's estate account. When I told him about the unauthorized transfers, he asked me to come in person. We take elder abuse very seriously, Mrs. Morrison. I'll have our fraud department ready. By noon, I had appointments scheduled. By 1, I'd changed my banking passwords and PINs. By 1:30, I'd drafted a list of every suspicious action Rachel and Tom had taken in the last year. At Patricia's office, I handed over the documents. She read through them with the focused silence of someone who'd seen this before. When she finished, she took off her glasses and looked at me. Mrs. Morrison, this is textbook financial exploitation. The power of attorney, the account access, the transfers, the reverse mortgage application. They were building a case to have you declared incompetent so they could liquidate your assets. Can we stop it? Yes. We revoke the power of attorney immediately, file for an emergency injunction against the reverse mortgage, and report the fraud. I'll also recommend a competency evaluation for you." I stiffened. "They want me declared incompetent. Why would I volunteer for that?" Patricia smiled slightly. "Because you'll pass. And when you do, it will be documented proof that you're of sound mind. It removes any future argument they might make." She pulled out a form. "This revocation is effective immediately. Once you sign this, Rachel has no legal authority over any aspect of your life." I signed it. My hand didn't shake. At the bank, Mr. Kowalski had 3 people waiting: a fraud investigator, a legal consultant, and a notary. They walked me through every transaction, every transfer, every document. I authorized a freeze on all external transfers. I removed Rachel's access to my accounts. I filed a formal complaint. By the time I walked out of that bank, my finances were locked down tighter than a prescription cabinet. Daniel drove me home. As we pulled into the driveway, I saw Rachel's car parked on the street. She was sitting in the driver's seat, staring at the house. When she saw us, she got out. "Mom, where were you? I've been calling all day." I didn't answer until I reached the front door. Then I turned. I was taking care of some paperwork. Her eyes flickered to Daniel. "What kind of paperwork?" "Legal paperwork. Revoking the power of attorney you used to steal $30,000 from me." Her face went pale, then red. "I didn't steal anything. Those were loans. For emergencies. Emergencies I never approved. Using authority I never should have given you." I unlocked the door and stepped inside. She followed. "Mom, you're confused. You signed off on all of that. You just don't remember." I turned to face her. "I'm a pharmacist, Rachel. I spent 42 years catching mistakes, reading fine print, and identifying medications. Last night, you tried to give me lorazepam and told me it was a vitamin. I recognized it. I didn't take it. And now I know why you wanted me sedated." She froze. Behind her, Tom's car pulled up. He must have called him when she couldn't reach me. "You tried to drug me so I'd be disoriented. Then you were going to push for a competency evaluation while I was impaired, declare me unfit, move me into a facility, and sell my house through that fraudulent reverse mortgage application." My voice was steady, cold. "Did I miss anything?" Tom stepped through the door. "Evelyn, that's ridiculous. We love you. We're trying to help. You stole from me. You forged my signature. You attempted to drug me. That's not love. That's criminal." Rachel's voice rose. "You're paranoid. This is exactly why we're worried about you." I pulled the tissue from my pocket and held it up. "This is the pill you gave me. Lorazepam. I saved it. I photographed it. And I have a witness who heard you and Tom discussing how long the dosage would keep me unconscious." The room went silent. "I've filed a police report," I continued. "The bank has flagged every fraudulent transfer. My attorney has submitted the forged reverse mortgage documents to the authorities, and I've had a competency evaluation scheduled with a neuropsychologist to prove I'm of sound mind." I stepped closer to Rachel. "You wanted to erase me. Instead, you erased yourselves." Tom grabbed Rachel's arm. "We should go." "Yes," I said. "You should." They left without another word. Daniel stood beside me as we watched them drive away. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. "I'm better than I've been in months." I closed the door and locked it. For the first time in a long time, I'm exactly where I should be. 3 days later, I sat across from Dr. Sarah Yamamoto, a neuropsychologist Patricia had recommended. She put me through 2 hours of cognitive testing: memory, reasoning, executive function, decision-making. When we finished, she smiled. "Mrs. Morrison, your cognitive function is well above average for your age. There is no evidence of impairment whatsoever." She put it in writing. I filed it with the court. A week after that, the police called. They'd interviewed Rachel and Tom. They'd reviewed the bank records, the pill I'd saved, the forged documents. The district attorney was moving forward with charges: elder financial abuse, forgery, attempted administration of a controlled substance. Rachel tried to call me once. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Mom, please, we can work this out. I'm your daughter. I deleted it. In February, I updated my will. Everything went to Daniel, with a trust set up for any grandchildren if he had them someday. Rachel's name was removed entirely. I added a clause. If any heir contests this will or claims I was of unsound mind, they shall be disinherited and receive nothing. Patricia filed it. It was done. The trial was set for May. I didn't have to testify, but I chose to. I wanted Rachel to hear it from me. When they called me to the stand, I walked up calmly, placed my hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor asked me to describe Christmas night. I did. Every detail. The pill, the fake drowsiness, the conversation I'd overheard. When I finished, the courtroom was silent. Rachel's lawyer tried to make me seem confused, forgetful, bitter. Mrs. Morrison, isn't it possible you simply misunderstood your daughter's intentions? No, I said. I'm a pharmacist. I don't misunderstand medications. Could you have been mistaken about what you heard? I heard my son-in-law say the dosage would keep me unconscious till morning. There's no room for misunderstanding that. He sat down. The jury took 3 hours to convict. Rachel and Tom were found guilty on all counts. Sentencing was set for 2 months later. I didn't go to the sentencing. I'd said what I needed to say. Instead, I spent that day in my garden, planting tomatoes and basil. Daniel came over and helped me build a new trellis. We didn't talk about the trial. We talked about his new project at work, about whether I'd consider getting a dog, about what kind of flowers would bloom best in the summer heat. Later, Patricia called. Rachel got 18 months. Tom got 2 years. Plus restitution of all the money they took, plus fines. Good, I said. How are you feeling? I looked out at my garden, at the house I'd lived in for 30 years, at the life I'd almost lost. I'm feeling like myself again. After I hung up, I made tea and sat on the back porch. The evening was warm, the sky turning that soft gold color that meant summer was coming. I thought about Richard, about how he'd always told me I was stronger than I knew. I thought about the years I'd spent taking care of everyone else, being the mother, the wife, the pharmacist who caught everyone's mistakes but never questioned the people I loved. I thought about the moment I'd recognized that pill and chosen not to swallow it. That was the moment everything changed. Not because I fought back, though I did, but because I trusted myself. Because I looked at what was in front of me and believed what I saw, even when it hurt. I pulled out my phone and called Daniel. Are you free this weekend? Always. What's up? I want to start volunteering again at the senior center. I think there are a lot of people who need someone to listen, someone to help them see when things aren't right. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think that's a great idea, Aunt Evelyn. I'll come with you if you want. I'd like that. We hung up, and I sat there as the sun set, watching the shadows stretch across my yard. I was 68 years old. My daughter had tried to steal my life, my home, my dignity, and I'd stopped her. Not because I was angry, though I was. Not because I wanted revenge, though I'd gotten it, but because I'd learned something important in those dark hours after Christmas dinner. I learned that age doesn't make you invisible. It makes you clear-sighted. I learned that silence isn't safety, it's surrender. And I learned that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to swallow what someone else tells you is good for you. I spent 42 years reading prescriptions. Now I was reading my life with the same care, the same attention, the same refusal to accept anything that didn't make sense. And for the first time in years, everything finally did.